China is destroying itself by harassing Japan. The Chinese government has reacted strongly to the release of treated water from the Fukushima nuclear power plant into the ocean, and has taken the hard-line measure of imposing a total embargo on Japanese marine products. The Chinese media has been covering the story extensively, reporting that the ocean discharge will leave a trail of destruction in its future. The Japanese government regularly inspects seawater and informs the public that it is below the standards necessary to ensure safety. In China, even though the media is covering the issue, there is no scientific evidence to suggest that it will leave a negative impact on the future. Regarding tritium concentration, which is an issue in the ocean discharge, China's own nuclear power plants are discharging water into the ocean with even higher concentrations than Fukushima. Since the Chinese media is the will of the state, it hides facts that are inconvenient for the state. This has led to stories in the Japanese press about the chaos in China as anxious citizens are buying up all the salt they can find. In China, iodine is added to salt as a measure against iodine deficiency. In Japan, stable iodine tablets were once distributed to residents living near nuclear power plants to prevent thyroid cancer immediately after the Fukushima nuclear accident in 2011. The story was passed on halfway to China, leading to a buying frenzy, with people saying, "If we take iodine, we can prevent radiation. So let's buy salt." There was also an assumption that if treated water was released, the sea would be contaminated and there would be a shortage of salt. In Japan, there has been no shortage of stories of Chinese harassment recently. Harassing phone calls into Japan continue, and the Japanese government is continually alerting China. China has not apologized for this and has responded that it has been receiving harassing phone calls from Japan. In China, the situation has escalated to the point of danger, with stones being thrown at a Japanese school and brick fragments being thrown into the Japanese embassy in Beijing. In addition, harassment of Japan has actually developed into a non-sale campaign. On Chinese social networking sites, there have been a series of posts with many Japanese brands and calls for people not to buy products from the manufacturers on the list. There has also been a wave of cancellations of flight reservations and group tours from China to Japan on some airlines. In the midst of this situation, some restaurants in Japan have started putting up signs saying, "Dear Chinese people, all of our ingredients are from Fukushima," and appealing to people not to come to their restaurants if they don't like it. There is a view that China's response this time will only have a negative impact on China. When Japan nationalized the Senkaku Islands in 2012, the Chinese government reacted and tacitly tolerated anti-Japanese sentiment among its citizens. As a result, trade relations cooled, investment from Japan into China declined, and the Chinese economy cooled. The current economic situation in China is sluggish. Domestically, the unemployment rate among young people is extremely high. Major real estate companies have gone bankrupt and many citizens have suffered, and heavy rains have caused floods and other disasters in many parts of the country. These factors have led to growing public discontent and a desire to avoid further negative economic impact. As in 2012, it is said that the Chinese government is tolerating these nuisance phone calls and boycotts as domestic venting, in order to divert public discontent away from the country. There is a risk that the Chinese government will lose control over its harassment of Japan. If it eventually loses control, it means that China itself will be hurt, just as it was when the Senkaku Islands were nationalized in 2012. Many companies from many countries are involved in China, and in recent years, companies that had operations in China have been pulling out one after another. China's response to this situation will add impetus to this trend. We are not sure what China's real objective is, but from the Japanese point of view, it appears that China is becoming isolated and self-destructive. Thanks for watching.